Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen. We're here, y'all. We are here. Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome, welcome to another edition of Systems Lab Live. Okay, folks? Systems Lab Live. Hold on. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second, y'all. I need to get something. Okay, here we go. All right, y'all. We're back. We're back in business. My goodness. Welcome to the February 12th edition of Systems Lab Live. Listen, I hope y'all are seeing the upgrade. It's just a little something, something. We're just trying a little something new. Okay? Just trying a little something new here, folks. And so what you're seeing here is just a brand new little StreamYard overlay situation. I'm super excited about that. And here we are, folks. Here we are with another edition of Systems Lab Live, week 2, built from scratch. If you were not here for the premiere of this particular theme, it's a theme, it's a movement, it's an all-in-one concept. But my friends, Systems Lab Live has been here since March 2020. It's about to be the 4-year anniversary in March. How exciting is that? But Built from Scratch is a brand new theme where we're really unveiling, unpeeling what does it mean to build, to create projects, programs, and initiatives from scratch. What does it take, people? What does it take? And so we're exploring this theme. Why? Because it's 2024, and I know if you're like me, if you are like me, you are working on brand new things. You have blown up a process. You are creating something, you are doing something that, hmm, perhaps you said to yourself, "Self, I don't know if there's a blueprint for this." And for that, folks, I'm excited to be able to journey with you all as we break down the circumstances, all of the circumstances surrounding building from scratch. In fact, there's a podcast season that is entitled Built from Scratch. It'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks. I'll announce the date as soon as 1 to 2 things get created and sent back to me. But I'm very excited about this because in the podcast season, we are talking about the first 5 or 6 episodes with me and you. We're walking through a case study. We're walking through a case study where we are really looking at, all right, someone has been handed a project. They've never done it before. This is their built from scratch moment. And for many of you all out there, I'm wondering too, what is your what is your built from scratch moment or season? What is something you are doing for the first time? And I actually just put that in the little comment thing my on team Instagram. Oh, I'm gonna pin that joint. Ooh, look at me pinning things. And then I think I'm gonna put this as like as a banner, folks, because I think that this is something that we should scroll across. How does that look? Oh, you all probably can't see it because the little overlay thing. Well, that's all right. Oh, okay. Maybe don't need to tick. Oh, here it is. Ew. There we go. I don't know why I said that, folks. No. What is something that you are building from scratch for the first time? What is that? What does that look like for you? Add to the banner. Yeah, right? Scroll across. Yeah, save. Okay, here we go. What is your built from scratch moment? I'd love for you to write that in the comments. We are in 2024. This is a brand new digital era that we are in. That means that the rules of how we've done stuff in the past can be rewritten, can have a new strategy. And oftentimes when we're in these moments where we're doing some of the creating and whatnot, and we are in it and we are, getting an understanding, right, of what it means to build from scratch. And sometimes that's daunting for a lot of us. Sometimes that's daunting. And so I'm excited because we get to look at the stories, the second half of the podcast season. We're looking at the stories. I'm going to be interviewing some of my favorite people on how they've built their life, their business, their projects, their programs from scratch. It's going to be powerful. And many of you are saying, well, actually, you talk about project management, you talk about organization, you talk about processes. Now, where are you fitting all this in? Well, my friends, this is really an introspective look where we are really doing some storytelling, right? Because again, this is real life. This is not just like, oh, there's a project in the atmosphere. Oh, I'm going to go and construct the scope creep. No, real people behind the real project programs and the things that happen in their life. So whether you are a project leader, Fortune 500, VP, COO, PM, product manager, you too have or are already doing it, building from scratch. My friends, buckle up, because it's going to be a wild ride. And so I love this because tonight, as I bring up my handy dandy Coda doc, shout out to Coda. Um, okay. Shout out to Coda. And I'm going to bring up my notes on this. But what we're doing here today is we're talking about my favorite subject, which what happens when it all falls down. Which, man, maybe that's what should have been the title of this little program. Because I'm not always a titler, like a good titler, so I will draw some inspiration for that good old chat GPT. And just a slight little plug, we will be doing AI and project management in the near future. And I'm very excited about exploring the tools that help us do the work efficiently, or so they say. So this is not about if you should adopt it or not. This is truly my own journey of discovering how AI can help me in the planning, the managing, and the organizing of project work. So we're going to go through tools such as Miro and ClickUp, Asana, Notion, Coda. It's going to be fantastic. And I'm going to enjoy it because, and then also probably Loom as well. And I love it because we're going to do it in a use case format. We're going to have a good old time, folks. And let me tell you, we're going to have a good old time. And I'm almost wondering if I should just make it a monthly thing, invite somebody else on too as well. We'll see. We'll see. All right, folks, what are we working on? Talk about it. Let's talk about it. What are we working on this week? What are we focused on this month? What is the goal? What is the particular project that you're on? It's the same thing from last month. What are we working on? What roadblocks are you running into? Tonight's theme is all on my favorite subject, on scope and requirements. Okay. Um, and here's the thing, I don't think that this is a topic that will ever go out of style. It's just me. It's not gonna go, out of style. It's just not. What we're going to be doing is we're gonna be examining 2 case studies. 2 case studies. One, we're gonna be talking about why software development projects, like your favorite software as a service platforms, like an Instagram, similar to like your LinkedIn, similar to applications that you use, why your favorite software on AppSumo, why do some software platforms, blah, 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 blahs, why do they fail? Why do they fail? And one of the reasons could be poorly developed scope and requirements. So we're going to take a look at that. I am going to open up my Readwise app because there are two particular articles that we are going to be focusing on. And so, as I mentioned last week when we talked about what does it take to build from scratch, or what does it, what are we going to be doing in this series? I said we are going to be definitely taking an introspective look. We're going to be looking at case studies. We're going to be breaking things down. If you were here for the NASA one, let me tell you something. That was good. The NASA one was incredible. Incredible. Well, 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 folks. Um, well, where are we? Okay. Well, two things we're going to look at. Mm, here we go. So we're going to look at software projects, Pittsburgh's requirements for affordable housing being blamed for bringing projects to a standstill. We're going to look at that. And also, too, 6 reasons why blockchain projects fail and how to find success instead. So, this is going to be really interesting as we go through the IT to some actual practical everyday work that helps to benefit people all around. So, with that said, a few things that we will start doing as I bring up the good notes. I am just going to highlight a few things as I start to write some notes for this. Let's see. And I'm going to close a couple things. I love it. Again, people, please be sure to put inside of the comments, which I would love to hear. What is it you're working on? It's going to be good, y'all. All right, software projects. So what do we mean by software projects in the comments? What are some of your favorite software tools that are out here right now? Have you ever heard of people saying, I don't like that platform because it's buggy, or I don't like that particular platform because they don't have this feature. You know how that goes. It happens all of the time, all of the time. And there was a case study that was done. I love this particular website called Mobile Apps Daily. Mobile Apps Daily. You guys got to get into it. Mobile Apps Daily. Here we go. And they essentially said this. According to a study done by Jenica, or maybe, yeah, I think it's Jenica, they call it. 75% of business and IT executives feel that usually their projects are doomed from the beginning. Can you imagine being a part of a organization, you're leading out a project and somebody says, "I think it's doomed to fail." I think that's wild, and this is why I always say stakeholder support is necessary. Stakeholder support is necessary. So, in this article, excuse me, in this article, um, they're saying it's gonna fail from the start. And here's the thing, why would somebody say that? Which is the question. Why would somebody say that? According to PMI, the Project Management Institute, organizations are wasting an average of 97 million for every $1 billion invested. due to project performance. I think on the flip side, it also makes me think some of the big wig companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, well, I guess Facebook and the Insta or Meta, right? How much have they invested in rework and also preventing project failure? That's also an opposite side of the question. But friends, um, 75%, as I'm writing this down, 75% of biz and IT execs say my project is doomed from the beginning. Can you imagine? And it is my particular assumption, folks, as we walk through this article, that it is definitely due to the scope and requirements not being drawn out. Okay. So PMI said 14% of IT projects fail completely, 32% of projects lose their project budget upon failure, 49% of the projects experience scope creep. Scope of the project was not clearly defined and controlled. So I would love for you all to talk with me a little bit, right? Whether you're catching the replay or live, talk to me about what's in some of your projects you have right now in terms of the requirements. Are they developed? Which is the question. How well are they developed? That's the better question. So let me write that down. How well are they developed? How well? How well are they developed? Let me share. How well? What's your system, folks? What is the system for tracking? Okay, let me share the screen. Mm-mm. That's what I'm gonna do. All righty. What do y'all think? All right. So, why software projects fail? So, if you all can think of one of your favorite apps out there, think about that app that didn't make it, right? There was one app that was called, what was it called? And I'm blanking a little bit, but they just got recently acquired back. They were called, they were doing async coaching, and they had a lot of support, but it never took off. So they just got recently acquired or something like that. But nevertheless, folks, less than 20% of business executives describe the requirements process as the articulation of business needs. Okay. Defining what is required for the project, what is required for the app, what is required for the website, what is required. Okay. So, interestingly enough, in 2008, Australia's national airline, Qantas, canceled its JetSmart project. The project was worth $40 billion. Can everyone say 40 billion? I think it's always helpful when we're able to, see things on the actual screen. Okay. 40 billion Jetstar. They canceled it. Could you imagine manning a project that was 40 billion. Okay. And it entailed parts of a management system of airplane mechanics of the company. Okay. Following a certain turn of events, I think we should make note of that. Following a certain turn of events. Mm. And what I wonder what those types of events were. What do you all think? When someone says a certain a certain type of events, what do you think people mean by that? Following a certain turn of events. Meaning we have trouble with developing the scope and the requirements. That's what we're essentially saying. That's what we're saying. My goodness. My goodness, people. Okay. So, this particular design, because this was a JetSmart project, and this was basically a management system for airplane mechanics. The solution was poorly executed and designed that the airplane mechanics refused to use it. So it was so bad how it was designed. The actual people who would accept it, which would be the sponsors, the project sponsors, they were like, "Not on my watch. Not on my watch." They're like, "I don't think so. I don't think so. We're not doing this. We're not doing this." So, after introspection, officials stated that instead of understanding the requirements properly, they just designed what they thought was appropriate. How how powerful is that? So this is really what happened. This was freestyle versus what was what was needed. And so I think a real lesson learned for us to really talk through is how does one how do we as project leaders ensure that we're creating an environment, number one, where there is trust, there is competency, there are no egos. And again, I'm inserting a couple of things into the story. It may not even be true, but I'm just trying to paint a picture because I think there's something to be said for freestyling and abandoning the situation where there was a conscious decision to be made to say, I'm not going to follow or try to even understand what's needed. I ain't going to do it. So I think we have to make note of that. We should be making note of that. Have you been in a situation where, for one, someone has decided to freestyle how they're going to do the work? What would you do? So I think there's a couple things to be done, but I do want to talk through the effects of poor, poorly defined requirements. What does that do to the project? Well, I think number one, yeah, let's do a new page, and I'm just gonna do it this way. So it's the side effects. Ooh, the side effects of poorly defined requirements. What are the side effects of poorly defined requirements, you say? Well, I think one of the side effects is unrealistic timelines and budgets. I think that you have an inaccurate deliverable or deliverables. I tell you what, this is something else though, y'all. But that's what I'm seeing, right, y'all? Anything else that y'all want to add to this? Anything else that you would want to add to this? I think this is super important for us to walk through the side effects of poorly defined requirements. I'm also going to add this too, because, and I guess it goes into the unrealistic timelines and the budget piece, right? Um, yeah, it goes into it. I think you just mismanage. I just want to say there's uh, mismanagement of funds. Okay. So wasted resources. Ooh, wasted resources. Wasted resources. Why is this important that we pull out the mismanagement of funds? Number one, because when we talk through the mismanagement of funds, what we are honestly saying and talking about is we have poorly executed funds that are going into the wrong places and spaces within the project. The wasted resources is not only the money, but it's also the people and it's also the materials. So whatever that might be. So these are the true effects. And then when we talk about the timeline, when we talk about when we're managing our scope and requirements and they're poorly defined, that really does not give, even on a task level, an accurate account of how something should be executed, how something should be built. Hmm? In the comments, what are people thinking about this? What are people thinking about this? Unrealistic timelines, talk about the mismanagement of funds, the wasted resources. What are some people thinking on that aspect? So the article goes on to say that even planning is an issue, right? That planning then becomes an issue. And I think that if you have the poorly defined scope, that means that you are not going to plan effectively. That means you're not going to be able to plan the direction of the project. You're not going to be able to plan and schedule out the tasks accordingly, the deliverables, everything in between. So I think that is something to note. There's going to be, even when we come to the quality assurance piece of even double checking, and that's just talking at a high level, you even mess up that entire process because if the requirements aren't developed correctly, let's take a website, for example, and if even if the client came and just said, I want a 5-page website, I just want some pictures here and there, but I trust you to develop something. It's still poorly defined because it's leaving everything up to you as a designer in your head, and you could just create anything. So, because of that, that then leads to the timeline taking longer than expected, wasting resources, the mishandling of the funds, all of that. Now, another piece, because as we talk about the software development, we're talking about our apps like Instagram or Facebook or our mobile banking apps or any type of app that is developed that's on our phone or on our iPads or even the websites, there's also an issue too when it comes to poorly defined requirements. We're also talking about the lack of testing that goes on. So if you are loose with the requirements, don't really know how to double check against what's accurate and what's not, that means for the testing, there's probably skipping of testing that's going on. There's probably missing code, incorrect code that is taking place. And so you have to be very much mindful of what the effects are when you don't have detailed project requirements. I want to go through one other thing. So, other aspects too that also affect having poorly defined requirements. This also then leads to just overall poor project management. The time, the scope, the budget, they're key factors. And so if someone is not strong in the leading and the managing and the organizing, not knowing how to navigate poor requirements, then the overall project itself will tank. So, what are even some tips for this one that we should think through, especially as we are building these particular projects and websites and apps and inventions? What should we be looking at? Well, I think the first thing is that we should be looking at our communication. Anytime there are poorly developed requirements, anytime that the $40 billion JetSmart project that the solution was rejected, that just means that nobody was on the same page of what needed to be developed, how the requirements were translated. There was no pushback, there was no anything to ask the question, "Hey, do we have this right? Is this what we mean, especially when we're designing this management system for mechanics? Is this what we mean?" So there was no management of that. There was no oversight. Another thing too is if you don't have a way to organize the work, like having a project management tool to be able to track the requirements, to track the tasks and seeing how things tie together, that too is going to be a key aspect, making sure that you have the right organization and software on that aspect. So those are really the top 2 things I would say for the scope and requirements for the poorly defined. I think also too, having a requirements tracker will be instrumental for your success. Having a requirements tracker. So some successes, I just wanna write this down. So things for you to have success, we're just gonna put this right here, is really the requirements tracker. Right? It's the requirements tracker. That's one of the things. And then communication. And I'm just yeah, and I would say PM tool is probably the 3rd thing. And I think a great way there's probably 2 different ways to do this. Before we get into the Pittsburgh example, I'm wondering if I'm gonna do this, y'all. I'm gonna do this, like, on the fly too. Imma do this on the fly. Any questions so far? Any questions? Oh, Taryn Anthony, what's happening? What's going on? It's always good to see the TA in the hit house. I wonder if this would be a good one to do. I think this is gonna be good. And I am gonna develop we're gonna do it live, people. Is this the okay, this is the demo. I'm gonna add a page. Y'all are gonna get into requirements tracker. choose from Unsplash. I'll put this right here, a tracker. Stop my screen. Y'all see all this? Okay. Okay, this, my friends, is Coda. How exciting, y'all. So this, my friends, is Coda. And inside of Coda, this is a fantastic way where you can actually go and build out a centralized process. And this is where you can really start to create something for your teams. I like Coda a lot. I think you can really build with this a lot. And so when we talk about building requirements for any type of project, listen, this could be website, this could be for your content. Maybe there's like a campaign or something that you're doing, an app, all the things can be going on. But I'm a big fan of requirements trackers because what happens is that they really help us hone in on what you need to do. What do you need to do? So I'm just going to go here. Code is very much similar to its cousin Notion. And I'm going to just do this here and just kind of do an overview and say, this is a requirements tracker for my for a healthcare mobile app. Let's go. Okay. And so I'm just gonna go and actually create a table. I wonder, and there's also what's cool is that there's also templates that you can use as well. I want to explore a little bit, and I just want to see if there's also a requirements. Well, see, this is what I love too. There is um, a PRD doc, which is good, which you can an interactive document for all the product details. So good. And I think, yeah. So if I want to track something, and I'm actually just gonna create this joint from scratch. Boop, 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 boop. I'm gonna do this table right here. I'm gonna do start a blank table, and I'm gonna say app tracker. Name of I'm gonna say ID because I want to change the column type, and I want it to be a number, and I do want this to be requirement name, and I do want to do requirement description. And for this, I actually want to do a canvas. Oh, I know what I need to do. Make a sub page, add a sub page. This is requirements template, R1 2024. And this is going to be describe the requirements, describe the requirement, just one. This may have more than one, right? Well, okay, you didn't need to have that. Yeah, and we'll just make it real simple, folks. We won't go too deep. But I will do this. I want to change the column type and I want to kind of go into select list, new. And what I want to do is add design, strategy, I don't know, technical. Mhm. But we're gonna try this to category. So what happens with this is that the canvas helps to like wrap the text around. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna change this column type, and I'm just gonna change it to canvas. I know some of you may be wondering, wow, I wonder what all of this is. I'm glad to honestly be showing you all some of this CODA stuff because I've been really wanting to, and I just may go ahead and do a little workshop on this because I think this is so cool to do. But this, my friends, is a really cool way to go about creating, uh, we can say, let's see, pop up box. And then in here, I don't know, this is like technical. Whoop, what we can do is open this up and write the requirements description. Upon the landing page, I want to see a pop-up box with a number for people with a way to enter people's phone number from my from my website. Oh, for my text community, I'm trying to say. For my text community. Boop. And there you have it, folks. Now, this is interesting. I'm just wondering, can I you know how you can format? Can you apply it to the ID? Well, that's not what I was thinking. I wanted it to go to the left side, but I don't know if that's a thing or not. Can you do something with this or no? Change column type. No, I think we're good. Okay. So, my friends, this is really how you can build a requirements tracker. You can invite people within, you invite your team members into this doc and have a more collaborative experience. You can do this also inside of ClickUp as well. That is always an option too. Now, Asana, I don't believe Asana has any docs. You know what I'm saying? Is Asana good? But it's not, you could, well, I'm gonna say this. I will probably, if you are just starting out in the PM space or managing projects and you're kind of like, okay, what tools do I need? If you are managing requirements in the spreadsheets, it's not a bad thing. You just may not, you shouldn't stay there forever. But I'm not mad. But you also can build out within a project within within a project, you can set up requirements inside of your assignment Asana board. Asana, Asana board. Okay, folks, we are finished with the software development piece aspect. I will stop also sharing my screen and we'll talk a bit we'll talk a little bit about um really we're going to be talking about Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh, and we're going to be talking about how the requirements for their how affordable housing program, how they're being blamed because the project is at a standstill. So gather around, ladies and gentlemen, gather around because this is a little bit of a thrilling story, to be honest. So, Pittsburgh mayor, and this is recent, this is as of a couple months ago, Pittsburgh Mayor Ed Gainey, wrote into the office fighting gentrification and the displacement of the cities working for the poor. So that was his thing. Okay. He wanted to fight gentrification and the displacement of the city's working poor. So we know as hopefully voting citizens, right? I think everyone should be participating in the civic engagement process, right? That's just my opinion. We have a good civic engagement process. But what's interesting about that is, he made a promise, as many of the elected officials do, vowing to build more affordable housing to make living and working in Pittsburgh more affordable, viable for everyone. So, what's happened is there's a big issue, right? Housing, I mean, at its fundamental core, people, housing is needed. When we talk about revitalizing or making something, better for people, you're talking about the employment, you're talking about housing, living, working, eating, okay? The fundamentals. So this is really interesting. The city's requirements for affordable housing are now being blamed for bringing several development projects to a standstill. Oh, how interesting. So when Google Pittsburgh moved into Old Nabisco plant on Penn Ave 13 years ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the time of this article, it was December 2023. If we say 13 years ago, we're talking about 13 years ago, we're talking about 2013, right? Right, come on, math. Hold on, calculator. 2020, okay. 2023 minus 13. Oh, sorry, 2010. That's funny. 20 we're talking about 2010. Okay. So, Google Pittsburgh moved into the old Nabisco plant. Shout out to Nabisco on Penn Avenue 13 years ago. So, this was when all of the luxury stores, how they started to come, and restaurants, you know how that goes. You know how in some areas, people, in some areas, they have the shops and they have where you can live and work and eat and play and all the things. All the things are going on, okay? And more than a decade later, the developer Walnut Capital, they say they're gonna plan a major expansion called Bakery Square 2.0. So it was Bakery Square 1.0 13 years ago, and then now he's saying, it's gonna be 2.0. So at an estimated 500 billion, 500 million, excuse me, it would double the size of the development with more retail and office space and 350 high quality apartments. Though Walnut Capital is prepared to begin construction, the project is stalled because of lack of city approvals. So, how many of us know, especially because we just moved from the IT software, that there can be other types of requirements in other industries that can actually have your projects at standstill or even maybe even dead the project, right? Depending on what's going on. So we have Google moved into Old Nabisco 13 years ago. Fast forward, we have upscale stores, luxury apartments. People are living the life. Now there's plans for Bakery Square 2.0, and they're saying, "Hey, folks, it's gonna cost $500 million for us to do this. We're gonna double the size. We're gonna have more apartments. It's gonna be great." Okay. Now, Tom Reedboard of Walnut Capital, this is what he says, because it's stalled because the city's not gonna approve it. He says, "Time kills all deals." He's not wrong. He is not wrong. Time kills, okay? He's saying, because in our business, when you're ready to go, you have to move forward. You can't keep delay, delay, delay. This is what he says. So, Gainey says, which is Mayor Gainey, he says, "Listen, this project won't move forward unless what? It has 10% of on-site affordable housing." That's what he said. He goes, "I have been clear. I've been clear from Jump Street. We want affordable housing. However, the developers say we already are faced with high interest rates, high construction costs, shrinking demand for the mayor's affordability requirements have tipped the scale." Okay? So this is what we're up against. And this is why the communication is so clear, folks. And let me back up. This is why communication is so key, because if there is a stakeholder, which is the mayor is one of the stakeholders. If the mayor is saying one thing, he says, "It's not that we can't have bakery shop 2.0, but I just want you to have 10% of the housing allocated to that." And and that also means there's other types of requirements. If you're not on the same page with the developers, there's misalignment, there's delay, okay? So I want us to follow that storyline. So one of the one of these associations, in the area, Jim Ecklenbob, yeah, okay. Jimmy, we're talking about millions of dollars, and they're mandating the developers just eat. And at that point, the developers say the project doesn't make money, I can't do the project. Ooh, what happens? Here's the thing, folks. What happens when stakeholders are not on the same page for the requirement? What happens, folks? What happens? Because this is a real thing. Because if we know something, as we know many of us, we know that the developers are gonna make some money, all the money from here, from east to west, to the north to the south, from Montana to Florida. It's all about the monies. It's all about the monies. Okay? So they're not on the same page about this. Okay? Woo! The Builders Association of Metropolitan Pittsburgh has also taken the city to court, saying so-called inclusionary zoning requiring affordable housing has saddled projects with millions of dollars of extra costs, forcing developers to pull the plug on several other projects. If they can't make money, they can't make it work. They're not gonna move forward with it. But the city says it remains committed to developing affordable housing to avoid displacement of residents and gentrification, and having housing options available to young service workers making an average median income of $17 an hour. My goodness. My goodness. Is anyone else hearing this? Is anyone? That, my friends, is Wild Town. Whew, we have a couple more points, y'all. In the case of Bakery Square, Walnut Capital negotiated community benefits agreement to help build or restore 100 affordable housing units off-site, but has resisted including affordable housing on-site without help from the city. To meet the mayor's agenda and include affordable housing, what you need is certain incentives for developers to make this happen. We're 100% in agreement with the mayor's agenda for affordable housing. We do think it needs to be accompanied with incentives. So, Walnut Capital is saying, "Listen, we wanna negotiate the requirements." And I think let me just tell you something. I think what they're saying is they're not completely closing the door to this, but all they're saying is that you gotta give us a little something, something. You gotta scratch our back. That's what they're saying. So here's what I want you all to be thinking about. When you're coming to the table with requirements, let's say you're building something from scratch. Let's say you're pulling in contractors. Maybe you're pulling in an investor or two. It's gonna take a meeting 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, depending on what's going on, how complex everything is. Be able to say, "Are we on the same page with what we're doing? Are we in agreement with what's required to get this done?" Because I think that's the question. Who's with me? Who's with me? Do we have an understanding? Do we have an understanding of what's required to get it done? Mm? So, my friends, they're at a standstill. They know there's a middle ground. And so I'm interested to see how things turn out. And that, my friends, concludes our second installment, our second week of Built from Scratch. If you would like an opportunity to work with me in your built from scratch moment, whether it's a process, whether it's setting up ClickUp, whether it is you're building a project and you want to sit down with me, would love it for you to book some time on my calendar and we can talk through how we can make that happen. Whew. Some of this stuff is not for the faint at heart. Complex. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces. So my friends, be well out there. Make sure that you all are tracking the requirements, doing the work, checking in, communicating, and we'll see you next week. Bye.